So tell me, you got your master's in poli-sci. So
Yeah.
What was that journey? Because that seems different than what you're doing now.
Oh my gosh, so different. But it's interesting because I have a lot of clients in those worlds. I just started to feel like disengaged from it. It just, and this is something for everyone to pay attention, that sometimes we have a sort of inner calling, or maybe something suited us at a time, but then we change, and it's important to listen. And then on a past life level, so if you believe in past lives, I certainly do, I was very actively engaged in politics, specifically in early United States history in a past life.
Hello, everybody, and welcome again to ClearCardio, Power of Prevention. And I'm incredibly excited to share with you a good friend of mine, Laura Powers. She joins us all the way from Las Vegas. She happened to be in town for a couple days and was kind enough to come to Carrollton Regional Medical Center, where ClearCardio is based. And we gave her a little tour earlier of the Donut of Destiny, all the cool stuff we do for early detection of heart disease, and kind of showed her what all that means. But really today we're gonna, if you had maybe followed us, I was on her show a couple months ago and had a fantastic time. We talked about heart disease prevention and how we sort of interface in that space as well. I'm more on the high-tech detection tools, and then she's more on the never get it, because let's use lifestyle and diet and exercise and stress reduction, all those kind of good things. So today we're really going to have Laura on and really talk about her life, her journey, because we're always very excited to hear the evolution of people's stories. So Laura, start from the beginning.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. Yeah, so I'm going to talk about my journey, especially as it relates to health and what I do. So I'm known as a health and wellness podcaster, and then also as a psychic medium. And my journey is that I lived like many people do, did all the things you're kind of supposed to do. And then I ended up actually in a place with a health crisis where I was really struggling. And it was at the same time as the housing bubble burst and recession. And so I found myself unemployed, in a bad marriage, physically unwell, and just really my whole life was a mess. And I went through the process of getting energetically and emotionally realigned at the same time that I was going through this health crisis. And so much of what was going on for me was related with just being out of alignment and stress. So I know you can relate. I know, as someone who deals with heart and heart health, how stress is such a killer. And so
absolutely.
If you are feeling out of alignment with your life, with your work, with your relationship, it literally is deadly. And I was having all these health issues, and I was struggling to figure out what was going on. And I did get some diagnoses, and I went through this health journey. That's part of why I started my podcast, Healing Powers podcast, was to help people with some of the resources that helped me. But one of the huge things that I did was really get back in touch with my spirit, my inner self, and then also get out of some of the toxic situations that I was in, including my marriage that was just not supporting me anymore.
So how did you find the tools that, what was the epiphany? What was the,
Oh boy.
how did that turn out?
Yeah, so a couple things. I went to a psychic myself, even though I have had abilities since I was a little kid. I still was struggling at that moment in my life, and I went to a psychic medium, and she explained to me how I had abilities and I had shut them down. And through that process, I shut out my own intuition. And by the way, I think everyone has intuition, and I really believe in heart health, gut health, brain health, because these are all things that you use to connect in with your own intuition. And if you are not well in those areas, you're going to struggle to navigate for yourself. So for me, she explained that I shut out my intuition, which was resonant. And then I went through the journey of trying to open back up and connect with my own intuitive abilities, and kind of rediscovered a whole new way of operating. I was living very purely kind of intellectually at that time and making decisions based on that. And it's very important, but you have to honor the heart, both
Right.
the health of the heart, but also
Above the neck and below the neck. I love to say all the time, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
How you're feeling, what is your soul communicating with you? And honestly, when people ask me, how do you connect with your intuition, and maybe they don't know, one of the first things I say is connecting with your body. your body is basically the mechanism for your soul to communicate with you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's why the health is so important. So I had to kind of reconnect with myself, my spirit, my body, try to figure out what my body was trying to tell me with all these health issues that I was having, and then make some changes. So I made major changes in my lifestyle, my relationship. And I also had previously been working in politics and government. So
Oh, wow.
so my master's degree was in poli sci,
Oh, wow.
and that was most of my professional work experiences in that realm. And it was happening all at the same time as the housing bubble burst in a recession, and I was basically became unemployed. But it was also because I was essentially being redirected into
Mm-hmm.
completely a different way. So started podcasting,
Hmm.
clients started writing books. I have 8 books out.
Wow.
So for everyone who's going through some kind of health crisis, I think it's always important to remember that there is always a silver lining and a gift. And a lot of times there's just something that we're being guided to look at
Mm-hmm.
to make a change for the better,
Mm-hmm.
if we really can face it and honor whatever it is that's coming up.
Wow. Wow. That's an amazing story.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's quite an incredible journey, but particularly on the sort of intuitive part, the
Sure.
aspect. Is that something that you just kind of always suppressed, or when you were younger, were less influenced by stuff in society and all that? Is that something you kind of forgot along the way and then kind of rediscovered, or?
Yeah, so I think a lot of people have abilities, and it certainly does run in families.
Hmm.
And so I grew up being very clairvoyant, which specifically means that I see the spiritual realm. And other people typically don't see that. It's not a very common thing.
Mhm.
And so I actually grew up thinking that I was crazy. It
Mm.
was many, many years that I thought I was mentally ill, and I was literally concerned about being put in an asylum or a mental
Wow.
health facility. And so what I did is I just kept it to myself.
Mhm.
But there were still things, in retrospect, talking with my mom, she said there were all these things that just didn't make sense. Like, as an example, I called the cops once on what I thought was an intruder in the house, and it was a ghost.
Hmm.
It was quite embarrassing.
Wow.
Like, all these police showed up looking for an invader, and it was like, well, it was a spirit, So it was confusing, and it really
Reminds
took.
me of Ghostbusters. Right?
Yeah,
Who are you going to call?
absolutely. Well, now I do clear spaces for
Unfortunately,
people.
police showed up and not Ghostbusters,
Yeah, but
right?
and they don't know how to do that, right? So it was confusing, and it took many years for me to get a handle on it. It actually was when I was in college, a family friend described a ghost I had seen but never told anyone about.
Hmm.
And that's when I knew I wasn't crazy, because someone else can't see your hallucination.
Right,
And
right.
so I had to come to terms with that, but also learn how to have energy boundaries, because if you have these kinds of abilities, then you likely, unless you're in a special family, haven't been taught about this. And now
Mhm.
with the advent of the internet, it's much easier.
Sure.
Like, it's way easier to find information and find others that are like
Mhm.
you.
Mhm.
And so that's what happened, is I initially recognized my abilities, but at the same time didn't have the tools yet or the teachers to help me. So I essentially suppressed my abilities for
Mhm.
years.
Mhm.
And by the way, anyone who has gone through this, I understand. If you don't know how to handle it, sometimes it's a very natural response. But essentially, I was flying blind in my life,
Mhm.
because instead of shutting it out, what I really needed to do was learn how to have boundaries and how to connect with what I wanted and release what I didn't want. And so that's what I ended up doing when I opened back up intuitively and started taking classes to
Hmm.
learn the tools. You, as a doctor, you know how important education is, right?
Right.
I just didn't know what I didn't know. And then I
Sure.
started to get the tools and resources, and it completely changed my life. And I'm very passionate about teaching people about their intuition, because your intuition is like should be your number one resource. And everyone has it, and a lot of people use it very naturally.
Mhm.
And some people need to learn how to listen to how their intuition is communicating. So yeah, it was a process for me. And then it was really when my life sort of fell apart that I really had no other option to really just dive in full force to it.
Mm. Sometimes the reconstruction is incredibly therapeutic and
Oh
helpful.
yeah, it was very much like, if you're familiar with tarot, it was like the house of the tower, the house of cards all came, tumbling down. But on the positive side, like, what I built afterwards was much better
Mhm.
than what had been there before. And it's funny, because if you'd asked me before if I was happy or satisfied, I would have said yes. But then in retrospect, I can now say, oh, I was
Right.
really miserable.
Right.
And that a lot of people, their standards, they just don't even know what they can have. Like if you've been sick your whole life and then suddenly you're well, like you're like, oh, everything's so much better, but you just didn't have that as something to compare
Kind of
to.
like boiling the frog in water, in hot water, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Never
Yeah.
jumps out because never realizes that
Yeah.
water's getting hotter and hotter.
Yeah.
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 So I'm always fascinated by genetics, right?
Yeah.
Cardiovascular genetics and who has heart disease and all that stuff. So I'm curious to know, in your family, does clairvoyance run in the family?
It does, actually. So my grandmother in particular was clairvoyant. My mom, I think she sees more intuitively, like sometimes she sees images in her mind, which is one of the ways that clairvoyance can come in. But with my grandmother, she saw like I do, which is in the physical
Hmm.
reality. And my grandfather was a pilot in World War
Oh,
II,
wow.
and they were stationed in England.
Wow.
And they were stationed and were given a house to stay in. And it was a house where the previous occupant had died by suicide in the house.
Hmm.
And he was still there.
Wow.
And she would see him. He would come up to the bed while she was sleeping, and he was not happy because, from his perspective, they were in his house.
Right.
And so that's one example of like that I know of that.
Wow.
And she didn't really know what to do about it. She
Hmm.
would sleep with a bat next to her bed, which again, if there's a a spirit in the house, physically, there's not really anything you can do about it. But
Right.
it's the only tool that
Just
she
goes
knew
woof.
that she had. Yeah.
Wow.
So it definitely runs, and my whole family is also just very psychic in general. We would, call each other at the same time, and
Hmm.
just wild kind of coincidences.
Hmm. Hmm.
Mhm.
So your brothers and sisters, do they have?
My sister is actually, I would say, very psychic herself. Although professionally, she has gone just the other way. So she is a
Hmm.
doctor like you,
Oh,
not in
okay.
cardiology.
Hmm.
But yeah, so she is very intuitive, I would say, and
Hmm.
and like with anything, whatever you develop, you get better at. So obviously, this being what I do for a profession, I've honed it as a skill, been doing it for
Hmm.
years,
Hmm.
taking classes, learning on the job, etc.
Sure, sure. And what kind of resources? I mean, other than internet and meeting other people, and but how did you kind of listen to that inner self?
Yeah, so a big part of that journey for me was learning how to be still and listen to myself.
Hmm.
And for everyone listening, it's really important that your intuition will work typically in kind of the quiet moments, or sometimes there's a little quiet voice in your mind. And if you're really busy, if you're really busy and active all the time and doing all this stuff, it's hard for you to pay attention to that. So that's part of why I think meditation is so important,
Hmm.
because you practice that stillness.
Hmm.
The way I describe it is, if you're talking, all the time, how can you listen?
Right,
Right. And that's
right.
what most people are doing. They're very busy in their day-to-day lives, and they're constantly in action and emotion, and there's a really good aspect to that, but like it's about balance. And so a lot of that is learning to be still, not overscheduling yourself, and also just prioritizing your wellness. Right. I mean, we have an epidemic in this country of people that are sleep deprived.
Hmm.
And as a doctor, I'm sure
Right.
like all
Oh,
the health issues that come
yeah.
up from just not giving ourselves, one of the most basic things we need, which
Right.
is sleep.
Basic hygiene.
Right.
Right.
So to self-care, learning to pay attention to my body, like even now, like I believe that when we have certain health issues or even an injury, there's something being pointed out to us. Like I have two back injuries, and I can tell you exactly what was going on in my life when I had those back injuries and I fell, and what I was being guided to release. It
Hmm.
was like sometimes our bodies are like, no,
Hmm.
don't
Hmm.
do that.
It's not an injury; it's a message.
Well, it is a message. Even if it's an injury, of course, please
Sure.
honor that something has happened to your physical body, and you have to address that on a physical level, but also understand, whatever it is that the message is for you as an individual.
Yeah. So, do you? What's your meditation routine?
Well, I like to,
How do you? How do
mhm,
you? You know,
yeah,
have that time to yourself and.
sure. I'm a big believer in frequency tracks and music and sound to help. So typically, when I meditate, I'll put on some kind of relaxing meditation track, and then just kind of lay there
Hmm.
and just feel the peace. I also think that breath work is very important. So whether you actually are really focusing on the breath or just really slowing down the breath. Actually, I used to work for the University of Colorado, and one
Oh.
of our professors, I would host when I worked there in that other sort of life, we
Mm.
would do recruiting tours for new students,
Mm.
and we would bring a professor with us to talk about whatever they did. And one of them, he did this research where he believed that mammals got a certain number of heartbeats in their life.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Right.
So a hummingbird,
Right.
elephant, whatever, it's
Right.
just that the hummingbird heartbeat is like really, really fast and the
Mm-hmm.
elephant is really,
Blue
really
whales,
slow.
right? 30
Absolutely.
beats a
Really
minute, right?
fascinating, right?
Yeah.
And the
Right.
heart being, again, a factor of this. But essentially, when you meditate, you lower your heart rate and you
Mm-hmm.
lower your stress rate as in
Mm-hmm.
general. Like
Oh, yeah.
all the research shows that it's not just when you're meditating, like literally after the meditation,
Sure.
your health is impacted
It's
as well.
exercise for the brain, right? For the
Right.
soul, probably
Right.
better.
And I struggled before I learned about all this stuff with meditation because it can feel really difficult. And I think it's important for people to understand that meditation really is a practice and it might not feel easy, especially when you're first starting to do it. But the
Mm-hmm.
more that you do it, consistently, the easier it gets.
Mm-hmm. So tell me, you got your master's in poli-sci.
Yeah.
So what was that journey? Because that seems different than
Yeah.
what you're doing now.
Oh my gosh, so different. But it's interesting because I have a lot of clients in those worlds now.
Mm.
So, yeah, I was always very drawn to, I think, helping people and service and just it was raised in a family that was very active politically and I was very passionate and I was involved in local politics.
Mm.
So I ran for city council and then I very nearly got elected, but I didn't. And then I became a planning commissioner. So that's the review board that reviews the plans for development for the
Mm.
city. And then I was chair of the public art committee in my town, and I worked at a state university, which was obviously very connected with state politics.
Mm-hmm.
So it was definitely my professional world, and I was very passionate about it. But right around the time that I had started to have a lot of these health issues, I just started to feel like disengaged from it. It just and this is something for everyone to pay attention that sometimes we have a sort of inner calling or maybe something suited us at a time, but then we change and it's important to listen.
Mm-hmm.
And it just no longer fed me in the way that it had before.
Mm-hmm.
And then on a past life level, so if you believe in past lives, I certainly do. I was very actively engaged in politics, specifically in early United States history in a past life.
Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is Dr. John Osborne, the Chief Medical Officer of ClearCardio, and I have something really exciting I want to share with you. We now have a newsletter. So this newsletter is all of the great science that I look at every day and read and scour the medical literature for. Important studies, important outcome studies, new tools, new drugs, new data on nutrition, all of the different things that I commit my life and have committed my life to and am passionate about in helping me to further preventive cardiology. From new diagnostic tools to new blood tests to new medications to the latest on intermittent fasting and dietary approaches to help people live longer and better. So it will all be in our newsletter. It is great reading. The price is right too because it's free. So please subscribe to our newsletter. Go to clearcardio.com or you can click down below and get access to our newsletter. Whether you're one of our patients or not, it's all good. But I love reading. I'm a voracious reader. I love medicine. And I love finding all the little charms, little treasures out there that make me a better doc, that better inform me, and ultimately help people along the way. So please support my habit of finding the greatest, newest, most important literature, and I'm delighted to share that with you. So please click below, subscribe. We'll get you on the newsletter list, and I think you'll really find it fascinating. So again, click below, join our newsletter, and we'll be really excited to help educate, or because we're in Texas, I like to say educate you on preventative cardiology and what the latest and greatest tools, tricks, and treasures are. So thank you again. This is Dr. John Osborne, the Chief Medical Officer of ClearCardio, and click below and get on that newsletter. Well, maybe what you're doing better is what you're doing today is a better answer to politics, perhaps.
Well, I believe we all can make changes, and also I believe now in changing our inner world, right?
Mhm.
So it's important to make a difference in the world, but I think if we focus on ourselves and change even our own inner peace or our own life, that is sometimes the most powerful thing that we
Mhm.
can do. And
Mhm.
I see a lot of people that are really trying to change everything externally,
Right.
but there's always going to be a problem, to
Mhm.
fix.
Mhm.
And you'll also be way more effective if you are handling yourself and
Sure.
in a good space yourself.
Well, and I think you bring out great points, right? I love to listen, right? I
Yeah.
just listening because people are so fascinating, right? Everybody has a story
Mhm.
and a background and what influenced them, and I find that endlessly fascinating.
And you don't know by looking at a person, right? Like
Right. Right.
whatever you think, you look at me and whatever you think, it's probably not what I just told you. And I learned from you, for example, that you were interested in planes and being a pilot and
Right.
everything, right? So we all have these, you know, the things that we're interested in and our past histories, which you cannot tell from the
Mhm.
surface.
But I think too, I get the inside straightened out first, then go out and save the world.
Absolutely. I see this as a real problem in our society right now where
It's
it's
ready, fire, aim.
yes, yeah. Get again, you're going to be better equipped to handle things out there if you're in a better place yourself. And I mean that from a health perspective as well
Mhm.
as mental peace, your intuition, your alignment, all of
Mhm.
that. And if you're having a really hard time in your life, and I can certainly relate to that, then it's probably because there's some major changes that you're being guided to make. And then
Mhm.
it's just a matter of identifying what those are and making those changes.
Mhm. Mhm. But it's hard. It's challenging. Really hard.
I think of course, especially when we feel like we don't know. I also would like to share that I feel like we're very much supported, spirit wise, if we reach out and we listen, because we're all getting messages, to support us, but a lot of times we don't know how to listen to
Mhm.
that spirit
Mhm.
voice that's
Mhm.
communicating with us. In my case, I literally sometimes hear it, but even the universe itself, you receive messages, everyone does, through the world, through overheard conversations, through maybe a book that pops up for you. There's always
Mhm.
ways that God, spirit, the universe is trying to give you sort of hints or clues to
Mhm.
help you.
So you do have that happen to you all the time, every day?
All the time,
Yeah.
all the time. And it's funny, like one of the recent ones, and I was curious your thoughts about this, but was on like vibration. And
Mm.
vibration is important energetically. Like in spiritual circles, we might talk about like low vibration versus high vibration.
Mhm.
Low vibration being like, anger, sadness, fears that are higher vibration, being joy, peace, love. But this was actually about physical vibration and using like vibration plates to help
Mhm.
you heal. So I kept hearing about it and then literally got pitched for my show, a woman who specializes in vibration technology. So those are the kinds of things. And then I started using it and I do just feel more calm
Mhm.
after. So that's an example from my recent history, but I'm constantly getting very, very specific messages
Mm.
through technology, through
Mhm.
people, a song that'll come on and it has a very specific meaning. I'll tell a story because it was so strong. So I years ago felt guided to go to Estes Park and I wondered what it was for. And then I got invited to Women's Weekend, but that didn't seem like it. And then I heard that the Stanley Film Festival was happening in Estes Park. Stanley Hotel is where Stephen King wrote The
Yeah, right.
Shining.
Right.
And so I thought, well, maybe that's it. And then I asked my angels and spirit guides, okay, so is this about film or is this about spirits? And I kid you not, because technology is wild around me, my TV turned itself on and the song that was playing it was like the music channel was the song from Ghost where she's at the pottery wheel.
Oh, wow.
So it's a movie about ghosts. And I was like, and that
Wow.
turned out to absolutely be the right thing. I got asked to do a seance there,
Huh.
had a tour of the Stanley Hotel, learned a lot of things about the spiritual realm that were very helpful. So that was a very strong, specific example, but everyone is constantly getting messages, whether they can recognize them or not.
Mm. Of course, my favorite line for that movie was, "Here's Johnny."
Oh, there you go. Perfect. Yeah.
Which I usually don't deliver with that face, but
You're talking about The Shining.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
from The
Jack
Shining. Yeah,
Nicholson.
not
Yeah.
not the
That's
ghost, but
yeah.
So what did you feel like when you toured it? Did you feel
Oh, yeah. So one of the things I learned, because I was doing the seance and I was involved with the film festival folks, was I got a tour of the hotel, including like the sort of underground, and
Mm.
saw the foundation. And I believe that spiritual energies, or our own spirits, basically connect and communicate through crystals. So water is a liquid
Mm-hmm.
crystal, right? This kind of crystal energy. And so if a spirit dies and there's no form, they'll find another sort of crystalline
Mm.
source to channel through.
Mm.
And the foundation of the Stanley Hotel is quartz.
Ah, wow.
And it's one of the
Wow.
most haunted places I've ever been in my life.
Wow. Wow. So you could feel it.
Oh, yeah. In
Wow.
fact, I would never stay there again.
Mm. Mm.
Never say never. But yeah, it was definitely a wild stay there for sure.
Wow. Wow.
Hmm.
Like a massive geode of energy.
Yes, absolutely. And I was there for the Stanley Film Festival, which is a horror film festival. So
Oh, it's a horror. Oh, okay.
it's not happening anymore. It happened
I
for a
see.
few years.
Got it.
But
Got it.
yeah,
But it specifically was horror.
that energy plus
Ah.
the supernatural energy of the hotel.
That content in that hotel. Wow, that'd be crazy.
Yeah, and they
Wow.
were screening the documentary that was about hidden messages that Stanley Kubrick may have put in The Shining.
Ah.
And so it was
Wow.
very much like that focus was on, the supernatural and hidden messages. And yeah, it was wild.
Well, here's either a message or a coincidence. I just literally in this last week read a little story about Kubrick and how he set up the images, and he had these little models, and then it was just incredibly intense. I had no idea.
Yeah, what I feel about him now that I've learned some things is I feel like he was very aware of some bigger things going on in society. I think he was definitely involved in some things that were not clear on the surface.
Mhm.
And he was definitely planting messages
Right,
in his movies
right,
for
right.
that.
Right.
Yeah. And
With an interpreter, translator, and
yeah, I mean,
and
and
communicator, right?
symbology you could see
Yeah.
in the movie. So that one of the theories is that the moon landing footage was shot by him.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's
Well,
talked about in this documentary. And
well,
so
I
you
always
could-
loved 2001
yeah,
Space Odyssey.
yeah, he did have a
so-
lot of
Yeah.
things to say about
Right,
space.
right.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Interesting. All comes back.
Yeah.
And so, what's your day look like? What do your days look like now?
So, like you, I run my podcast, I do interviews, I travel for appearances for clients, I write, and then I also am in the entertainment world. So, both as myself doing, television and media appearances, and then also I do acting and modeling and singing. And so it's like
Wow.
my day to day varies quite a
Now,
bit.
did any of that occur before 2007, 2008? Or?
Yeah. So, I was a child actor and model.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And my parents.
So I guess you didn't get here overnight.
No, yeah. But I took a step back from when I was in politics for a while.
Hmm.
And then my parents were musicians when I was a kid growing up. So I literally toured
Oh.
with them as a child. And
So do you play?
I sing.
Okay.
Yeah. I
Okay.
used to
Wow.
play brass instruments, but now I just
Oh, wow.
focus on the
Wow.
singing.
I'm very jealous. I
Oh.
play one instrument. It's called the stereo.
It's amazing that we have music at our disposal like that now.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do think that we're all creative beings. I mean, I think this is a form of creativity, right? Hosting the show. And so that we all have a desire to create something. It might come in through different forms, through different people, but we're not here to just kind of be a cog in a machine, that we have something special to offer the world.
Right. Right. I'm always fascinated by stress, right? I think
Yes.
that links a lot of what we do on a daily basis, because I think it's so underappreciated, underdiagnosed. I think the big challenge is, well, okay, what do you do about it,
Yeah.
right? So what are your solutions there? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think the one we already talked about is meditation or finding some form of quiet. Some people struggle with structured meditation, and I think maybe you go for a walk or, go out by the trees or whatever that is for you, where you can just feel calm and relaxed. I love music. We talked about
Mhm.
music as a way to help ourselves get there. So when I'm driving, especially if it's stressful, I'm definitely listening to some calming music tracks.
Like Metallica and
Yeah,
things like that.
totally. I do love Metallica, though.
There's a place for it.
So yeah, music, frequency tracks, meditation. And then the big one, which I also address in general terms, is spiritual alignment. I mean, if you are doing something that you feel miserable with
Hmm.
every day, you can use your tools, but it's sometimes our soul is essentially crying out, like, this is
Hmm.
not the thing.
Yeah.
And we don't know until we shift sometimes what that could be like. I mean, if you had told me years ago that I was going to be a psychic on TV and traveling and doing a podcast and doing these things, I mean, it sounded like crazy when I was really in my poli sci
Hmm.
realm,
Sure.
right? That
Sure.
sounds
Right.
like what would that be like? That's so weird. How
Right.
could that even work? So, you're maybe being guided into something that sounds a bit crazy on the surface. But almost all people who are doing something out of the box or not a sort of a traditional job are told by many people typically that is not the thing to do.
Hmm.
What would Picasso have done if he wasn't a painter?
Right. Right.
And it's not just, like I said, creative work, but everything we do in a sense is creative. So
Hmm.
yeah, spiritual alignment, meditation, paying attention to the health. What is your body trying to tell you that's
Hmm.
off? And then energetic boundaries. I think we have a sort of an epidemic of people that are chronically not honoring their own what they need. Like, especially a lot of women are
Sure.
chronic
Sure.
overgivers. Like, they're
Sure. Sure.
constantly trying to take care.
And being taken advantage of.
Yeah, and you have to set the universe to show you what you want and need, meaning, like, you're going to be treated how you treat yourself,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So it's very important that you take care of yourself, that kind of self-care, that take the time to meditate, take care of your physical form,
Listen to that
dress how you want to
small,
dress.
still voice.
Yeah, yeah. And the universe responds. The analogy I give to people in terms of the universe is it's very much like a Netflix queue. So whatever you engage with, the universe kind of sends you more of that. Just like
Mm,
when you watch something on your queue, you're going to see more of the things like that.
right.
So if we don't like what's in our queue, if we don't like what's in our life, it's up to us to start engaging with something different. And then over time, that sort of queue
Don't
will
necessarily go with
transform.
the algorithm, right?
Right. And it takes some time. So, just to have patience with that and not give up. But we have a lot more impact and control than we think on what our life is like on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. Yeah. I think all of us tend to underestimate our ability to change and evolve. And um, I agree. I agree.
And the other thing I feel to mention is to believe in the abundance of the universe,
Hmm.
right? And
Hmm.
I think that there's so much there for all of us, both, and I mean that in terms of health, finances, time, freedom, whatever it is that you're wanting more of, just believe that you can have it, and then surround yourself with people
Hmm.
who are believing and feeling the same, because so much of
Right.
how we experience the world is based on our circle and
Hmm.
what they're mirroring back to us.
Hmm. Absolutely. Well, listen, I can't tell you, it was so wonderful to have you here. Thank you for having me on your show. But it was great to hear about your journey, and the beautiful thing is you're just still starting,
Oh, thank
as
you.
I am too.
Thank you. I think it's such an adventure, and we never know what's possible until we start. But I love what you offer, and I'm so grateful to spend the time and get to meet you in person. So thank
Namaste. Well, listen,
you.
I hope we have a chance in the future to have you back on as we do what we do and you do what you do. And I think that psychosocial, mental, the soul aspect is so important, right? I love saying to patients that as a cardiologist, I've never treated heart disease. I happen to treat people who have heart disease or worried that they have heart disease, right? Because it's both below the neck. I mean, that's stuff we balloon and stent and bypass, and there's mechanical things that might need to be done. Um, but it's the above the neck that is so critical, and it's always both of those things, right?
Absolutely.
Y-
And even our perception of what's going on. Like we've talked about some of your clients or patients where they were worried that they had
Mhm.
heart disease and then they realized they didn't. Even that worry could impact their health
Absolutely,
because it's
right?
creating stress. So
Right.
just the importance of the tools, finding out, doing research, and I believe very much in use all the tools. Get the
Mhm.
physical checks, tune into your spirit,
Right. Right.
do the meditation, but absolutely use whatever resources you have at your disposal to feel better.
Mhm. Absolutely. Well, listen, this was phenomenal, and really, again, appreciate your time and carving out a little bit of time while you're here in Dallas to spend some time with us. And I hope our discussions are ongoing.
Thank you. It was my pleasure. Thank you, John.
A pleasure.